if you want to become wealthy, nobody becomes wealthy from saving money. If you have the money, you need to make it work.
Chat with Mick is about celebrating who we are, our journey, our creativity, our culture, and the communities that shape us. Every conversation honors real stories, real voices, and the real moments that connect us all. This episode is brought to you by Servpro.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Chat with Mick. And today we have Patrick SIA, who is such a multifaceted person. We go way back to our Los Angeles Daily News days, and now he owns several companies. He owns Servpro, a franchise of Café 86, SIA Construction Company, and a mold testing company. Patrick, what part of your business do people never see?
Oh my God, there's a lot. One thing that basically I would say people comment on being a business owner is like, oh, you're so lucky you have control over your time, which is actually the complete opposite. I work 24/7, and also my customers, my clients actually has my time. So I actually do not have full control of my time. It's actually the other way around. So I think that's probably one of the things that people do not know about being a business owner, especially here in America, that, if you want to be successful at your business, you need to be on all the time. So there's no break to it.
So you own several businesses, and have you always been like this since you were young? Have you always had the business acumen that you have now?
No, when I was younger, actually, I think a lot of, my parents' friends, they thought I was going to be a lawyer because I always had an opinion. What encouraged me on getting into business is back in 2011 when I got laid off from the Los Angeles Times. Funny thing is, I actually just told my mom about this, that getting laid off from work was a turning point for me to say, because it hurt. It hurt so bad. And plus, I had a newborn. So I was like, holy shit, where am I going to get the money? That was a turning point for me. And I told myself, I need to figure it out because I don't want to feel like this way ever again. And just from there, it's just, I kept on educating myself. I kept on being curious. My eyes are always open. I talk to people that are smarter than me, business owners. I listen to every single thing that I said, whether I'm going to use it or not. I use their experience as if it was mine. And just from there, I was able to think, okay, what is it that I want to do? How will I become successful? How will I become independent so that, like what I said, nobody can lay me off ever again? So that's how it happened.
Take us through what happened. How were you able to start from that? What was your mindset? What went on in your head when you were laid off? How did you even begin to start saying, I want to have my own business so no one can lay me off ever again? I know you went through several steps within your head. What were you thinking back then?
This is going to be quite a story and a journey. So back in 2011, like I said, when I got laid off, during that time when I was working for the newspaper, Daily News in Los Angeles Times, when I was a coordinator, when I wasn't in charge of basically my income, like you didn't really think of it. But when I applied for a sales role within those companies, I had old timers telling me, hey, you know what? Back in the day, an LA Times rep would show up at the business door, and if you're not ready for them, they'll bail. And back in 2011, it's like, if I do that to a customer, they will say, like, we'll never buy your product. I always told myself, what is my generational product? I need to figure out my generational product, right? So from then, when I got laid off, about a year later, I got into digital advertising, Google. And when I worked for a company, like I said, this is a journey. When I worked for a company, there were some things that basically they were telling me that I wasn't buying. So I had to research everything that basically they were telling me, because I had customers where they're entrusting me with their money, and I want to make sure those hard-earned dollars that they're entrusting me with, actually goes into the right places. So eventually I found out, oh, I can be my own Google advertising agency. So then I quit that job and I started my own digital advertising company. But then from there, I had like clients that actually wanted more from me. It was hard to grow. So then, I got into real estate as well and lending. I added that into digital advertising. But then during that time, one of my customers was a Servpro Property Restoration. And in advertising, if you ask them basically, what's your ROI? That's always a hard number to come up with, right? When I approached these Servpros, I asked them like, okay, why are you guys staying with this company? And they were saying, oh, because the very first job you guys got me was a $200,000 job. And I was like, wait, he can tell me. That's one. And second is, what the hell is this business? So I told myself, eventually I will research this business. And, you got busy, you started making good money. And then I suffered my own water damage at home. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I saw the process. I saw what they were doing. I saw basically how much they were making. And then I told myself, I want to do this for my family. Because one of the things that happened to me is like my dad died when I was 12. We came from riches to rags because my father was the only one that was working. So I told myself that I will never let that thing ever happen in my family. So I was always looking for a business where basically everybody could be together. Mm-hmm. And that's how basically the property restoration started about. So long story short, from there, now basically, we were blessed to make good enough money. Now we're like basically looking to expanding, to diversify. How can we continue growing? How can we basically be in other kind of like industries as well, that we want to be in, that we will see that's beneficial basically for the entire family.
Going back to the very first question I had, what do people not see? Because you do property restoration, right? And so there's a lot of unexpected things that happen, and then there's damage to your property. So what kind of damages do you repair or restore?
So for Servpro, we focus on water damages, fire damages, mold remediation. Those are kind of like the key core areas of the business that basically you get a lot of. And I would say maybe the part that basically the customers do not see, especially if they have an insurance claim, is on top of just hiring us as your water damage contractor. You do not hire us basically necessarily for the labor work. You hire us for the expertise, because we might be contractors, but we're really doctors for your home. Mm-hmm. So especially for a water damage, we want to make sure that your house doesn't get sick, your house doesn't get mold after your water damage. That is the reason why also we charge such for basic what we do. If we get compared to another contractor that doesn't have the same expertise that we do, it's not apples to apples. The documentation that we provide, the coordination that we provide, those are the things that basically not a lot of people see. It's also a team effort. Like I said, people see the technicians that goes into their properties, but they don't see basically what happens on the back end. And there's a lot of things that happens on the back end.
What are those things that happen on the back end?
Well, like I said, preparing documentation, preparing estimates, coordinating between vendors, coordinating with your insurance. Those are a lot of things that basically takes actually more work a lot of times. Planning, right? Takes a lot more time than actually doing the physical labor work.
As you go through all of those restoration projects, what challenges come up?
I would say it's not necessarily a challenge. I would say more of the coordination. It needs to be done. Mm-hmm. When a property suffers a damage, it needs to be done. But depending on the size and scale of the project, the coordination and the planning sometimes takes more time than the actual work. That especially if I put it in a scenario for you. Let's say actually right here, right now, we're on a 22 unit loss in a dormitory. Imagine coordinating that with the landlord, with the property manager, and with the property manager coordinating that to all the tenants. And what if it doesn't end with the tenants? Let's say now you need to basically coordinate that also with the parents, because these are dorms, these are students. All of that job maybe would take 2 days, 8 people to get fully coordinated. People don't see that, right? And like I said, we those are the things that basically in a project like basically what we're doing, depending on the size and scale, like people don't get to see.
You also went into mold testing and construction. Did the Servpro Restoration project come first before mold testing and construction?
Yes. So those 3 businesses are kind of like all related to each other. The mold testing basically would handle basically any pre-mold testing and any basically material testing, whether, depending on the year of the property, there are certain regulations you need to follow. You need to test for asbestos, you need to test for lead, and you need to follow protocols. The construction side is when we are done basically with mitigating the first phase of your damage. Now there's repairs that are needed. And that's basically where the construction company side comes in. If the customer so chooses us to perform that portion of the job, because I'm also a licensed General B contractor. So basically we can perform the repairs for them as well.
Where did you learn how to build and construct and repair property?
I would say relationship, experience, talking to people, talking to contractors. There's no equivalent to basically people showing you, having a mentor, seeing things basically in actuality instead of basically reading it from a book, watching it on YouTube and all that stuff. There's nothing that can replace that. So over the years, when I was starting doing like water damages and fire damage and mold remediation, now basically you get to meet other people that are smarter than you, experts in construction, experts in whatever that they do. I always try to build relationship with them so that basically at any given time I can give them a call and ask them a question, or just basically invite them for a coffee or lunch and just pick each other's brain, right? So I've learned so much that way. And like I said, it's good to just basically have somebody that's on speed dial to say, hey, I have a question for you. Do you have 5 minutes? Because at the same time, I will do the same for them. Sometimes I get calls about this, do you know anybody? I get calls about like random things that basically I have no, I would say it's not like kind of like in the realm of basically my services, but I still try to point them towards the right direction.
The construction business, mold testing, material testing, and property restoration business, they all go together because they all lend themselves to each other, right?
Kind of, yes.
But then you have Café 86,
Correct.
which serves sandwiches, boba, tea,
Ubi
and
dessert
coffee,
products, yeah.
and all kinds of really good stuff. So how did you get into the restaurant business?
That's a great question. I've always been a foodie. If I have the opportunity to basically go back and rewind, what would I do? I always wanted to become a chef. I love barbecuing. I love cooking. I love eating.
So now we know where to go on weekends, right, for barbecue?
Yeah, but if I have the time. So, but me and my wife, we said like down the road, like, when we have a business, what is going to be our retirement business? We always say that, what, we want our little cafe. And then, we weren't really planning on franchising a Café 86. But then a friend told us that basically, hey, you know what, Café 86 is franchising. So I said, like, you know what, let me talk to them, research basically what's entailed and all that stuff. And after talking to my wife and all that, so we just both decided as a family that, hey, it's, it's a good business to add. It's an industry we're not in. Whether it becomes successful or not, we get to have now the knowledge and firsthand experience. So that later down the road, if let's say somebody comes in and say, as an investor, right? We're looking for investors. Here's our basically business plan for a restaurant. Now we're more educated in it. We saw the challenges. We saw basically the successes. So then now basically it's an industry that we can say, hey, we have experience in. Now, like I said, if there's a future opportunity down the road that becomes available, we can make a more educated decision on what we're gonna do.
What changes did you see from all of those other businesses that you have compared to having a restaurant like Cafe 86? What changes or additions did you see? Because it's different when you're dealing with actual customers. There's something tangible like a drink or a sandwich or some kind of pastry as compared to a larger project.
There's definitely differences, right? So, but there's also similarities. I would say one of the difference, of course, basically when it's a retail establishment like a cafe, people come to you instead of us going to them. So that's very different, right? The marketing aspect of marketing, the marketing side of, doing it for a restaurant compared to the other types of businesses, they're very different. They're both challenging, but you need to stay at it and be true, because that is something that is similar to any business. If you do not market, you do not business develop, if you do not work on your business, it's not going to happen. There's no such thing as just basically opening your doors, whether it's a cafe or a construction or restoration, that it's automatically just going to happen for you. I would say maybe at the end of it, really, is that you just need to be good with people. You need to be real with people. You need to treat everybody kind of like nicely, and I think that has been really the key success for us, is that basically we're real people. We're very easy to work with, and then we do not, we don't wrong anybody. So, and as simple as a cafe, you'll see that too, because, part of what they're buying you, both in the construction side or Servpro side and cafe, part of the product, you have a product in cafe, you have a product in the cafe, you also have a product in the other businesses. But they also buy people, right? And then basically you actually want that to be the deciding factor more than basically the product. Just be good with people. I think, it will work out fine.
That's actually a good point. It's really about the relationships that you make with people, whether it's the cafe or your restoration projects. Going back to what you said earlier, the turning point that you had was when you got laid off. We all know that life is not all a bed of roses, right? It's up and down. What if something happens and these things don't work and you're not at the same point as where you are now? You're at a lower point in your life.
It comes with basically planning. And the most important thing basically with owning a business and running a business is who your support system is. And that's your family. If your family is not on board with what you're doing and what the plan is, because remember, what I do is not necessarily for me. It's for my family. And if they don't have the full support of whatever it is you're doing, it's absolutely 2,000% going to fail. They need to be on board. I'll give you an example. When we were new at this restoration business, I was actually working as a technician as well. It wasn't always busy back then, but there was only a few of us and I worked, so I was like working my tail off. And I could not forget about this. As a family, we were gonna, it's Sunday, we have a family day. I literally just pulled in to the parking lot at the Camarillo outlets. And all of a sudden my phone rang. Me and my wife looked at each other, and my wife said, go take the call. Took the call. It was a big job. And she said, let's go home. Right? So that is when I know, basically, I have the full support of my family that, hey, we understand. If your family doesn't support, basically, the challenges that you will encounter when you're at the growing stage, absolutely it's not going to be successful. And also the other part is basically when you're starting and you still don't have the funds, you got to learn to be frugal. And especially even when you're starting, even when you start earning the money, you need to continue to be frugal. Because until you get to that point now that basically you have enough money, like I read this somewhere, it's like, if you're buying something and if you cannot afford to buy that 10 times over, you cannot afford it. We needed to get to that point. So like I said, absolutely, for I think 3 years when I started Servpro, we didn't go on any vacations. We kept everything frugal. We, kept our finances in check. Then even when we started making money, we actually stayed the same. We didn't move into a fancy house. My wife loves exactly where we're at. We don't drive Mercedes-Benz cars. We just stay humble because we understand that, hey, we understand where we came from and we never want to go back there ever again.
For those people who want to start a business early on in their lives, just like you did, what will your advice be?
Educate yourself. Work when no one's paying you. There's a lot of people that basically wants instant gratification basically when we're doing something. The fact of the matter is, I think I became successful because of the work I did when no one was watching. Right? When I was working for a company, as soon as my kids were asleep, it was around 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m., I went back to work. And I wasn't getting paid because I was educating myself. I was telling myself that basically if I want to be successful, I want to do this, I need to do this when no one's watching. It's no different than basketball, right? What's Mamba mentality, right? You see Kobe Bryant playing, but do you think he only does that when the 2-3 hours that basically you see him on TV? Look at the work that he puts in when nobody's watching. Your business is the same. You need to do a lot of work for your business when no one's paying you, especially when you're starting. And don't think if you have a mentor that say, I need you to work for me, you work for me for free and I will teach you, I would say take that. Because if you have a mentor that's willing to guide you, you're golden. You're lucky, in all honesty. Mm-hmm. Because somebody's willing to show you the ropes. A successful person, something that he cannot buy is time. He can buy everything else, but he cannot buy time. So if he's willing to give you time, go take it. That's my biggest advice.
What are you currently working on?
Quite a bit. On a business standpoint, I think we're set right now for those 4 companies. But then, like I said, now that basically we became successful with it, now basically we're looking at, okay, how can we make this a generational thing for our family? I read this somewhere too. If you want to become wealthy, nobody becomes wealthy from saving money. If you have the money, you need to make it work. That is currently on my mind. Like, okay, how can I do that? I guess one of the most beautiful things about me is that I admit I do not know. So I'm talking to a few people that knows and educating myself so that I know basically what to do. And at some point, if I really want to do it, I need to pull that trigger. Because I can think and talk and educate myself, but if I won't do it, I'll never know. And I might lose money, in all honesty. Mm-hmm. But that is the risk you take if you want to become successful.
Where can we find information about your restoration projects, your construction company, and all of the other businesses that you have, and also Cafe 86.
The easiest place to find me is basically the retail location at Cafe 86 in Canoga Park, because you can always look for me in there. I do have basically my vendors sometimes meet with me there and all that stuff. So yeah, at Cafe 86 in Canoga Park, you can find me there. Our website for the different businesses, they're all going to be different. But anybody that can, you can maybe look me up in social media. I'm not a big social media influencer, but I do have a Facebook account. I do have an Instagram account. And I'm also willing to mentor too, because I always believe in paying it forward. I was mentored by client during digital advertising. I was mentored by those people. So I believe in paying it forward, but only to people that really knows what's entailed. Because unfortunately, there are some people that always want to talk, that say they're willing to do it. But a lot of them basically just fades. Come visit us at Cafe 86.
We learned so much from you today, and we all know it takes a lot of effort to run a successful business and to run several successful businesses. I just want to thank you personally for being with us today. For anybody who's watching out there, if you want to learn more about how to get restoration services, construction, or mold testing, or even material testing, if there are any businesses out there who need those services. And also, if you want to visit Cafe 86 in Canoga Park, you can reach out to Patrick, SIA. I just want to thank everyone for watching today, and I'll see you in the next episode of Chat with Mick. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Servpro. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out.